Alright, so here, continuing the lighting install, tinning wires and soldering them to the pads. This video is sped up to 2 times the speed. And here I am doing the reverse light, the rear light, prepping it, trimming wires, thinking of wire management. Should almost have elevator music going, but knowing YouTube, probably wouldn't be allowed. Yeah, some days I really wish I had a real pair of wired trimmers and strippers, especially for small gauge wire. Being smart there, holding the wire with the tweezers, knowing that couldn't get my fat fingers too close to the soldering iron. Now we're moving on to prepping the lights for the number boards, wiring them up, trimming wire. And I could have trimmed the wire more. At the time I was thinking I'd like to leave enough there so if the shell ever had to come off, it could be laid next to it. This definitely was an interesting project to get the lighting to work as well as I did. You know, there was some gremlins and some troubleshooting after I got it all together, but it worked out quite well. So right now I'm soldering the wire lead to the function command for the number board lights. Now this is me assembling the speaker and the baffle. The one thing I should have done is a dry fit. The outcome of this is not great. Since I do have it all assembled, I will use the speaker and the baffle in another locomotive, but I ended up using the too large of baffle. There was not enough room for all of the lighting, the blue tack, and the large speaker and baffle above the gear tower. So I ended up taking this and putting it aside in my own stock, and taking one of my unused speaker and baffle and assembling it so it would fit properly. I'm employing tweezers and such. Normally I just do this freehand with the crazy glue, but I tried not to this time, so I have a habit of gluing my fingers together with the crazy glue. See there, that was the problem right there, adding that piece, which is wonderful. It creates a bigger chamber for the sound and the resonance, but it was just a smidge too big. And there I was using CA accelerator to speed up the curing process. Works well. It's just me cleaning off the excess spray. Yeah, now right there, I just got glue on my fingers. Trimming away some of the excess CA is cured. And all this is to have the speaker seated properly on the baffle. So that's using the whole speaker and baffle assembly from DCC Loksound. I'm just using some CA to fill some gaps. Nothing too crazy. I'm not a huge stickler when it comes to filling all the gaps and making it airtight. Yeah, So now we're getting ready to wire up the speaker. Using a toothpick to apply the flux to tin the speaker leads. And I believe I'm just figuring out what I want to do and where I want to do the speaker wire attachment. As I said, I end up using a different speaker in Baffle and setting this aside in my own stock. Just because the speaker and Baffle is just a smidge too tall with what I've done above the gear towers. I attempt different locations to try to mount it under the shell, but I do end up basically having it on that side, attached to the shell facing down rather than on the gear tower facing up. I did manage to reduce the number of videos, and I pretty much cut out a whole video of the installation. It was redundant, repetitive. I did a lot of fiddly work with wiring and, you know, all that stuff. Cleaning the second gear tower. I recorded it, never intended to use it. So yeah, there's other footage that's not needed. I mean, the most of this footage is boring as all hell. So I'm watching it, commentating on it, and you guys are watching it to see how I did it, I guess. But I don't blame you if you decide to move on to the next one. This is almost done anyway. This is the second time I've done voiceover commentary. Now I'm starting to install the shell, realizing there's problems both with the speaker and the shell doesn't set right onto the frame again. And I cut that section out. So what I end up doing is trimming back some wires, desoldering, reorganizing, using a different speaker and Baffle. I found out that when I used the crazy glue for the magnet wire and then used the accelerator, the crazy glue was on top of those square sections that are in under the cab next to that rear flywheel, and it was not allowing the shell to seat properly, and it was teeter-tottering, rocking back and forth and whatnot. So once I found that and cut the access CA off, it's set right, and then proper wire management really helped. It's still a snug fit because I do have a bit of access wire in there in excess of it, but it managed to set properly after some finagling and wire management. So here I'm trying to figure out how I'm going to get the speaker to fit and sit the shell properly. And yeah, I spent some time on that after this video on other footage. Managed to do it with the other speaker and whatnot, but it took a bit of trial and error and repositioning to try to get it to work. So this is basically the first attempt to close up the shell, and I think it took me an evening or two to try to resolve all of the gremlins out of it. You can see right there under the 1950, that's where the CA is that's going to make the shell not sit properly. It has to be cut off and trimmed back. You can see all of the wires I'm pushing down.